What is your feelings on non-drafting and your future in non-drafting? Do you see this is where Alistair Brownlee is going to be in the future?
Absolutely. I've been a triathlete since I was 8 or 9 years old, followed the whole sport from Olympic distance racing to Ironman, and it's been my dream to win an Olympic gold medal, which I've done now, and it's my dream now to go and win a bit more, try and do a bit more at the Olympics and World Champs, and then move on to Ironman. So at the moment I see probably doing Rio and then moving on to long distances after that.
Do you think now, I mean, this year is probably as good an opportunity as ever without the pressure of chasing points on the ITU series. Do you feel for yourself that it could be a good chance to go to Vegas, or is that not on the cards for you?
Yeah, Vegas is something there kind of on the radar at the moment, something that I could step into, I think, without changing things around too much. The time of the year is very, very difficult. I don't know if it clashes or it's very, very close to London, isn't it, this year?
I think it's about a week apart.
A week apart, so yeah, that's very, very tough, and obviously London is probably the race for me this year. So yeah, at some point definitely, I'd love to give it a go, but probably not this year.
Between yourself and your brother, and I'll throw Javier Gomez into this mix as well, you seem to have changed the game in ITU racing. The way you guys attack the race and the way you guys, approach each discipline with vigour. It's sort of, you've caught the world napping, so to speak. How, I suppose, has there been anything within your training or within, or how is inside your mindset when you approach a race? Is it just, it's helpful? It seems like it's hell for leather from the start. You've got one gear and that's fast.
I think so. I mean, I've known no different, so it's just how I race. I think it's that attitude that you can go out, and there's been an attitude with triathletes that there's always kind of, because there's 3 disciplines, there's always something that can go wrong, and it's not in your control, and it's the attitude that you can go out and control things. Actually, the most amazing thing for me is the fact that Johnny is currently on something like 36 races without being off a podium. I think it's probably one of the best achievements in triathlon in all time, and that's it. You can control races and do well in every race if you want, and that's an attitude that people don't get a lot of the time, and I think that's it.
Ali, a couple of years ago at the Sydney ITU race, you had a slip and a fall, and then you essentially shut down, you shut down the engine and you just rolled through to the finish line. A lot of people criticised you after that race for perhaps not getting back up, and even your brother threw out a hand at that point and tried to get you back going. Was that a bit of a turning moment for Alistair Brownlee in terms of a mentality approach?
Well, that race, there was an awful lot had gone on, to be honest. I'd struggled again that winter, really tried hard to get fit. In the week before that race, I'd done something with my ankle and hadn't been able to run. In the last lap of the bike, I'd ridden a flat back tyre, and for the whole bike actually I'd ridden a seat post that had slipped down. So by the time I'd fell over, towards the end of that run, I was like, oh, what else can go wrong in this race? And actually I did actually try as hard as I could to get going, but it was like suddenly all the adrenaline had kind of left my body, and there was not a lot I could do about it, and I was massively disappointed at the end, but it kind of gave me motivation to go away and train really, really hard, and then I think a couple of months later I raced Madrid, which was probably one of the best races I've ever raced, so it did its job.
Last year before the Olympics, obviously you were the pin-up boy of the Great Britain campaign. You're on buses, you're on billboards everywhere. How much pressure does that add? How much pressure did you feel going into London last year?
There was a massive amount of pressure, but I think I was lucky in lots of ways that I'd experienced it in a few years before. Even as far back as 2009 when I started winning races, London was the 4th race that year, and suddenly people were thinking, yeah, Alistair can just turn up and win races, but I knew it wasn't that simple, and everyone in triathlon knew it wasn't that simple, so at least I'd had a bit of a dry run a few times before where things had gone right and wrong, like London 2010, so I think that helped a lot, and it was just a general attitude. I knew that I could only do as much as I could, and my aim all year was to get on that start line as fit as I possibly could be, in the best condition, with the best equipment and everything, and that's what I did, so I was happy already, to be honest.
So I want to get your opinion on the ITU World Series. Obviously it's vastly different from when it was, and I suppose you've known no different coming into the ranks when it has been the ITU World Series, but previously when it was a standalone world championship, and you know, you had guys like Peter Robertson who would turn up on the day and win on the day. Is it for you? Would you? I mean, there's a lot of talk that perhaps it should go back to that kind of format. Do you know, as an athlete, is that the kind of format you would prefer, or do you enjoy racing on the World Series? How do you? What's your take on the way that the ITU is currently run?
Yeah, I'm really split on it, to be honest. I can't decide in my own mind. On one hand, I really like the World Series, that there's a number of different races, and I think it's starting to go in the right direction in the fact that if you have a series, there has to be different kinds of racing. You know, there's no point having 5 or 6 flat city courses that are all the same. You know, if you're going to have a series, there has to be one that goes up a mountain, one that's in a sea and some beach in there, and so I think that's a good thing. But again, I don't really like racing so many times all over the world either, so you know, maybe that one-off would be a bit better. As far as the commercial aspect of it's concerned, no, I think the series is a good move. I think it's probably the right way to head for triathlon, and yeah, I think it's a good thing. Although there is definitely that kind of romanticism of the one-day, one-off race. You know, Peter Robertson is a bit of a hero for winning 3 world champs, as it were, and that's fantastic. So yeah, you could argue both. You could argue the toss all day.
The prospect of Rio becoming a sprint distance race and the inclusion of the relay is becoming, that rumour is building momentum as each day goes forth. Would you welcome a sprint distance race in Rio?
Well, I've been promised it won't become a sprint distance race, so I'm hoping not. I've been promised it's going to remain as the Olympic distance, the iconic race that is an iconic endurance event. So I'm hoping it is. I mean, if it becomes a sprint race, I have to deal with that, and I'll go out and prepare for it. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad or a good thing for me. But the relay, I think, is a fantastic thing. I think it's a fantastic event. I think it actually is a real test of triathletes. Even though it's over a short distance, you have to be really good at all 3. And obviously, as Britain, we've got a cracking team. So yeah, I really hope it gets in.
If it did go to sprint, would that disappoint you? I mean, it would seem that we've got this thing called the Olympic distance, and to go and change it would seem silly.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think for me, triathlon is iconic. It's an endurance sport that lasts nearly 2 hours. That's part of its attraction, the fact that it's tough, and you know, people who don't know a lot about triathlon watch it in London like, wow, you know, how do you do all those things in one go, and you know, do it so fast? And that for me, what's triathlon about? It's a showcase of endurance and how tough the sport is, and changing it to sprint would ruin a lot of that for me. But as far as the actual racing is concerned, I wouldn't mind too much. You know, there's positives and negatives. The positive of a sprint is that they can be all out really, really fast racing, like we see in the French Grand Prix a lot of the time. Very, very quick, very, very tough right from the gun. And you know, Olympic distances don't tend to be quite like that. So you know, either way, again, I'm not too worried.
Look, I guess one question that we ask a lot at First Off the Bike, and it's a lot of it's been driven by this whole Lance Armstrong saga, is the, you know, clean sport. You know, you're the current Olympic champion, you're a former world champion as well. You know, obviously every time you race, people go, oh, it's extraordinary, you know, that's an impossible feat. Does it wear you down, you know, as an athlete, that sometimes, you know, people that they won't believe that what you're doing is real?
No, in lots of ways it's fantastic. It's like, you know, it is, and I always believe 100% that everyone's clean, everyone I've raced, and everything that you see, because I want to believe that kind of special things are possible, and that not necessarily miracles, but you know, amazing things happen. But no, I think it's almost a compliment in many ways that people don't expect it. But yeah, I mean, as an athlete, for me, it's not necessarily even, the goal isn't always winning things, it's just getting the most out of what you can get. And so it's about, yeah, pushing your body to the limits and training as hard as you can and seeing how fast you can go. That's the challenge, really.
So are you convinced that, you know, when you toe the line on a World Championship Series race, that your competitors are clean, or is there any thought in the back of your mind that potentially one of these guys might be, you know, doing the wrong thing in training and, you know, experimenting with illicit substances?
No, I never give it a second thought, really. My attitude is that first and foremost, you know, you have to presume, or you know, absolutely sure that everyone is innocent of everything and go out and race. But also there's there's a slight more tactical thing to that. You know, if I'm racing next to someone and I think, you know, you're on drugs, they're already kind of half beating you, and you don't want to give them that psychological advantage. So there's that as well. But I think absolutely just presume everyone's innocent and race them like that.
Finally, just to get a picture of what Alistair Brownlee is going to be up to in 2013, you're here, and then is it off to the World Triathlon Series? Are we going to see you in High V this year as well, or what are the plans?
Yes, well at the moment the World Series, I want to do the World Series. It's tough this year having to do more races, the 6 races, and get them in. So it means I'm going to have to race in San Diego, which I don't necessarily want to do, but I'm probably going to do San Diego and see after that, head to the European ones, Madrid. Really looking forward to Kitzbühel, Hamburg, Stockholm and London. So yeah, and High V is another one of those things like Vegas that I definitely want to do again. It's going to be tough to fit in this year. I don't think I can do the World Series and High V because there's quite a lot of races backing up the back end of August and then into London in September. So at some point I'll give it another go, but maybe not this year.
Okay. Well, Alistair, thank you so much for talking at firstoffthebike.com, and we look forward to watching you race this year.
Thanks very much.